Okay, I'm going to set a record here and make 2 videos in one day. This video is kind of like the final transition or foundational information before we can actually start messing with the synthesis part. I'm just pointing out things that I wish that I knew early on. I'm going to go into it here with file management. Here's my Audioterm installation right here. This link actually goes to the program file in here, right here. I've got my various PDF files right there. I put them in there manually, and the placeholder came with it. Okay, let's talk a little bit about file management. All this stuff is stuff that's working for me. It's not the only way to do it. These are the directories that Audioterm makes on installation. Disregard that. And it's shown on the boot up screen briefly. It kind of flashes in front of you and goes away. And it counts files that you have, whatnot. But the important note here, and we've already talked about it, is you cannot bring files into these directories from your machines. You can't put a serum wavetable in here and try to open it. Alright? You can only create wavetables that are compatible and upload them to your various hardwares. I'm not sure why. I think it has to do with copyright or something like that, where they don't want to be able to pull out the factory wavetables and so on and so forth. Anyway, there they are. A little bit more about how I do it. I'm getting to the point now where if I had everything, all my samples in here and all my single cycles in here, it would be too much. And everybody will get to that point if they're not already. So I started making subdirectories, and Audioterm has no problem with it. Right now, I have no files in the actual directory of 01 samples. They're all in subfolders. If I were to start Audioterm right now, there would be no samples. So let's bring a few in. And I'm only going to copy them. I don't want to drag them in. I like to keep these all solid and I don't want to mess with them. And I bring them down here to work with them. Okay, so those 6 will show up, or they should show up. I don't know if I've tested everything I've got in Audioterm. We'll soon find out. So I just wanted to show you how I've been handling large numbers of files. Same for your single cycles. I've got all kinds of directories. Let's bring some of these Casios. I made these recently. Somebody ripped all the sounds out of a Casio CZ1. I used to have a CZ1000, and I always wanted to have all the single cycles, so finally did it. Alright, what else should I talk about? Oh yeah. This should also say comma Harmer, because anything you put in export to 4, any wavetable you export to 4, is readable by Harmer. Alright, I've covered what I wanted to cover on file management. Now I wanted to talk to you about navigation, the buttons, some of the idiosyncrasies, which there are a few. And some of this will be repetitive from a previous video, but here we are at the menu function. The plain English title here is main menu. We've got all these selections here are available in the top row. I'm not going to get into synthesis, but I am going to get into some of the menus, just as I said, to describe some of the idiosyncrasies and hopefully some helpful tips. Before I go any further, I want to show you how to get out of this screen and get back up to the top level, and it's right here. And depending on which screen you are on and which level you're at, down deep into the navigation, there are different buttons that bring you out. Unfortunately, they're different ones, but you get the hang of it quickly. Right now it's exit. Okay, that gets me completely out. If I go down in one level, let's go down into K-term function. We're in the K-term function because I just pressed it. By the way, the button went dark. The system button went dark. All the other buttons are here. That's confusing. Confused the heck out of me. To get back to the on point, to get out of this one, I have to use menu. And then to get out of this one again, it's exit, or back to nothing. 1 second. Okay. We've gone in. We pressed system. We pressed K-term. And K-term went dark. But it's up here. I said that wrong. We pressed K-term. We're in the menu. We press K-term. We're in the K-term function. And we're in the system. In plain English, it's system settings. But we're in the system. System went away. Disk, viewer, and so on. Slice. Everything. So these 7 buttons are represented here. The current one is dark. And I guess you can use that nomenclature right there to tell you what should be there. And up here in plain English. So we've got these 7 here. And what I need to tell you too is that the top row are all related to the currently selected button. So when I select a new button, I'm not going to press it just yet. But when I select disk, a new series of sub menus or whatever selections will appear. Okay. This is where you have to go really slow in the beginning, which I did not do, and I kind of wish I had, and that's why I'm making these videos for everybody else. Really easy to get lost now, but the button that's dark, it said disk. They've got file operations. You're going to have to correlate disk with file operations in your mind. I'm just going to go across the bottom here. Viewer. Okay. Plain English is table viewer. Slice editor. Excuse me. Table assembling. That said assemble. ENV. Partial envelopes. TEF. Table editing functions. Alright. Let's go back to system. We're still one level deep in the K-term function. If I press menu, we'll go back up, and there's K-term again, and the other 3 synthesizers. So let's go back in. For system, I have volume. You can see it up here. And I have speed. That's how fast your wavetable plays. I believe it's using Paul's stretch algorithm, because the wavetable is only 32 or 33 samples long. If you were to hit play and play 32 tiny waves, it would just sound like a little blip. You wouldn't hear it. So they use, I believe it's Paul's stretch algorithm, and you can stretch it out. If I want slower speed, it stretches it out more. You'll become familiar with that. Probably are already. Okay. So for system, we've got volume and we've got speed, and we can also flush the contents of the memory of any wavetable that we've been working on. If we get back up to this menu and we want to get rid of it, I'm going to press disk here, and now we have pages. Okay, well, there they are. I guess they were compatible. Not very loud. If I had, this was full, and you'd see some things on here. I've got 0 to 5. Files 0 to 5 are on this page. There are 6 files in the folder. How many pages have I got? What page am I on? So if I had more files than would fit on a page, these buttons would have a function. I would be able to skip to the next page. Find. This lets me alphabetically search. So let's type in find in 19 and see if it finds that. You can use your regular keyboard. You don't have to click on the screen. I guess it found it. File type. This takes us to the files that are currently, the file folders that are contain files that are compatible with the currently used mode. There's one down here that's missing. I guess you could say missing. Anyway, we can use all these with the kterm function. So I'm just going to reselect 0, 1. You can't click up here again. I'm going to reselect 0, 1. Alright, that covers file type. If I can click up here. You just have to get used to the different things. Let's say I can't hear this stuff. I'm going to use this one. And if I'm coming over here to load, pressing it, and I'm not going to go further than this because this is too much into the synthesis realm, but here's a third way to get out, and that's cancel. I've lost count. That may have been the fourth one. And one other detail is these brackets indicate that there are more selections afterward. So here they all are. Alright, we're still going. Rename. Let's rename it to 23, I don't know, whatever. 23 IJKL. I have escape and return. Escape gets me back. I guess that's a fifth one to get me back, if you want to think of it that way. Or return. Okay, it did it. It's the old DOS format. Only can have 8 uppercase alphanumerics. If I want to delete it, well, we just copied these out of my other files, so let's go ahead and delete it and see what happens. It's going to lead to more options because I've got the brackets. Delete files, yes or no. So it's just a yes or no. I'm going to go ahead and do it. This guy I've never pressed before. It just takes you to a file explorer, and that's it. I guess it takes you to the samples directory. We already know what system does. It brings us back out. Viewer. This is for viewing the wavetable. I've got no data in it yet, but we've got several selections up here. These just view the table in different angles and ways. It's kind of self-teaching. Alright, we're going to continue across here. Magnification, sorry. You can try that for yourself. Okay, continuing across slice. Here I can see, here are my 31. tables, and I can manually create each one. And this is harmonic information. Each one of these is a sine wave. Let's see if I can get that back. Well, if I hadn't have added all those in there, I'd have a nice sine wave up there now, because I've only got the first partial highlighted. Anyway, I can do that. I shouldn't be talking about this because we're talking about synthesis, so let's get out of here. Continuing across, assemble. This is where you can create wave tables by forcing individual single cycles into the various slots. ENV, envelope, partial envelopes. All right. Again, I shouldn't be talking about this just yet, but we will on the next one. Sorry, TEF will be our table editing functions. And this screen here confuses me a lot. I don't know why, but it does. I start thinking that all of these are all different buttons, but in fact these are all the same, and these are all just buttons that affect table editing. But they really have a lot of depth here. You click one of these and you start going in and in and in, and anyway, we'll cover that later. And over here is RAM wavetable, and if I press this, it will play what wavetable is currently in memory, and all I've got is a wavetable with one partial. Let's hear it. Pretty boring. All these functions are synthesis, so we're going to get out of here. System. Okay, and maybe you remember menu will get us back up to the next upper level. And the next one is exit. Alright, I'm going to stop here. And the next one may take more than a couple